Hello and welcome to another edition of Choose to Challenge here on E360 TV. I am LaWanna Bradford and I'm real excited because every show is unique and special. And today we have none other than Serena Bufalino joining us. She has been on this platform before, but this time we're going to take the conversation down a slightly different lane. We're going to talk about walking in your purpose after loss. Walking in your purpose after loss. Now, Serena is just a magic, brilliant soul in her own right. She is an educator, a humanitarian, a spiritual leader. She has a passion to help and support, especially marginalized communities. She's the CEO and founder of Help Heal Humanity, and they do global work in different communities, particularly those disenfranchised in Haiti. So we'll unpackage a little bit of that in just a moment, but this show again will be focusing on how you can find your purpose and walk in your purpose after loss. We'll be back in one moment. How's it going, Serena?
Hello, LaWanna. It's going really well. Thank you for having me. I almost started to tear up when you were speaking about me, but yeah, I'm really excited to be here today. And like you said, it's a different type of conversation. So I'm looking forward to doing this together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I just want to tell the audience how this conversation actually came about. You and I were speaking last week, and I recently lost Dad almost a year ago, and you shared about your own loss of your mother and your father, and also others who were close to you. And we were talking about how when we're walking in our purpose, sometimes that purpose is showing up and being there for others to the point that when that journey has ended, we're kind of at a loss with, okay, now what? Because that has been so much a part of who we are and how we show up. And so can you share a little bit about your journey and when did that sort of aha moment hit you where you realized, okay, what now?
Well, I feel like it's been happening all along. I just didn't realize that everything that I was doing essentially was prepping me and bringing me closer to facing something that I actually never really wanted to face, which for me, you know, one of the most devastating things that I feel like could have happened to me in my lifetime up till now was losing, in particular, my mom. My mom was my, obviously both mom and dad, my creators, but just phenomenal human beings. I feel so incredibly blessed because I know that, the beginning phases of my life were built on a foundation of love, and that love was given to me, role modeled to me, and shown to me by my mom and dad. And so, as you were saying, I am a special education teacher. I do run Help Heal Humanity. So, and specifically dealing with marginalized youth and vulnerable youth and communities. So, in a way, I've always been a caregiver. I'm always giving to my students or giving to the communities or giving to the people that we are serving, because in service, it's really never about us. It's what we can do for others.
Right.
Um, and and in my humanitarian work and my teaching jobs, people have asked me, because I am a bit extreme and I do things that most people wouldn't feel comfortable doing. And they're like, "Are you afraid of anything?" And I'm like, I'm not really afraid of much. I open, I trust, I surrender. I said, but like the worst thing that could ever happen to me would be if something ever happened to my parents, in particular, my mom. That's something that I would never even want to think about. Just the thought of it would make me just choke up. And then, of course, I was challenged in the most profound way when not only my mom, my dad, but my sister, all three of them were literally on life support in three different hospitals. And so I had no other option and no other choice but to step up and to face not only all my fears, but to put every feeling, thought, action that I had out of the way so that I could be there for them. So
So I
caregiving,
just want to make sure that our audience heard you clearly. Your mom, your dad, and your sister all at the same time on life support in three different hospitals. And you were the caregiver, the advocate, everything.
I was. I was. And it was the hardest years of my life, um, but the most insightful, the most clarity, the visions, the knowledge, the wisdom, like everything was kind of coming to me, and I could understand why my mom was in the hospital dying in the way that she was, why my dad was in a separate hospital dying the way he was, and my sister. So, in taking on that caregiving role, which again, it's, caregiving is just, it's love in action, and it's being there for the person that you're loving, caring for. And it's just, stepping outside yourself and being there for them in whatever capacity they need. So it's not about you and how you want it to be, but it's about being there for them. And again, that was challenging in itself because of course, you know, I didn't want my mom to die or my dad or my sister, but it wasn't even about me. It was about what they wanted. It was about what they wanted and how was I going to show up for them day after day, day after day. And yeah, it was just it was it was it was the most profound experience of my life, and it shifted me, it changed me, it completely changed me. You said the title of this show is, finding your purpose after loss, and then that's kind of what happened to me. I was fully present to being the caregiver for my mom and my dad. My mom was the first to go, which was like the hardest thing ever. When my mom was in the hospital, I just wanted to be with my mom. And my mom
Right.
would say to me, my mom would say, go to your dad, go to your sister. And I'd be like, I don't want to. But of course I wanted to make mom proud. So I was like, okay, I would do whatever she asked me to do. And I would go check up on dad and go check up on sister and then go back to mom. So, it was an extremely obviously hard, difficult time, but I got a lot of clarity. I got a lot of insight. And then, after their passing is when, I completely shifted my life. So,
So let's kind of unpackage this. And thank you so much for your transparency and just sharing this with our audience. So you package this as love in action, and you said it's not about you. And when we find ourselves in the caregiving mode, um, I found, and I just want to bounce it off of you. I mean, you were dealing with three,
yeah.
one or three. It taps into everything that you have. In fact, you don't even know the strength that you have until you're caring for someone else. And I see it as being blessed to be there as someone is transitioning. It's for me. I sat back and I thought, why me? Not in a negative sense, but anyone that could possibly show up. It's like, you know, the universe chose me for this point in time. Even though my brother was there, my mom was there, but to be like 100% there for dad, it was me. And I don't say that to have a badge of honor, but what you
Yep.
said, it changed you. And there were the moments of clarity, right, that you were getting. And that's what I found so unique. I'm like, wow, this is a different way. I was leaning into how divine connections and communications come in a different way that I
Yeah.
hadn't been aware of, didn't even know you could have that heightened level of sensitivity. So I want to just turn that over to you.
Yes, and that's what we were speaking about last week. Again, I have done practice of yoga, meditation, mindfulness, right? Which has those practices is what allows me to be the caregiver, right? To just step outside myself and be like, okay, what do you need in this moment, and how can I be that for you? But as you were saying, LaWanna, it was almost, I mean, yes, my circumstances were heightened because I had three, not just one, but it was almost like I was an observer to my own life. So
Mm,
see, I could see my my situation, and I could see, I understood why they were there, what they did in their lifetime, and what choices they may have made that resulted them to be in the circumstances that were they were in. And I would sit back and I would observe, but it was almost like I could see myself caring for them. And this this amount of awareness, I can't explain it. This is awareness and clarity that came. I've never felt it to that degree again. And just last year, I was caregiving for one of my really, really best friends. And I was for sure part of her primary caregiver at Princess Margaret. She died of cancer, and her journey was about, I'd say, 8 months. And I was sleeping in the hospital daily with her. And, that's something that people don't talk about too, is like the person who is ill. A lot of
right.
us are always trying to treat the symptoms and treating the symptoms of the physical body. But I feel like a lot of people neglect the mental health associated with having a disease, with being told, or with coming to terms with the fact that your life is ending. Your life is ending, and the amount of anxiety that can cause to the person is like unbelievable. And I feel like that is something that the healthcare professions, in my experience, I felt like they were more focused on helping the
Yes.
physical pain go away, and not the mental health associated with being diagnosed with a disease and or a condition, and what you've just been told you're most likely going to die. Like, we should be, helping people get through the mental state of that. But sorry, my girlfriend in particular, Rowena, she looked at me when I was caregiving for her, and I think she felt very safe with me, and that's why I ended up being there as much as I was. And she's like, Serena, she's like, it's so weird. She's like, I'm so aware. I'm so aware of everything. And I said, yeah. I said, that's basically like, that's the way we should be at all times. But it's surrendering. It's letting go. And when you surrender and you let go of control, and you let go of the way you think it's supposed to be or the way you want it to be, I think the quiet, the stillness, it
Yes.
brings it brings in clarity. It brings in awareness. And I think for me, that clarity and that awareness and that mindfulness is something that I've been practicing. Again, not knowing that I was practicing it for it to make me be okay in all of these situations, but being mindful, being present, surrendering, letting go, in that stillness, in that quiet, you get a lot of valuable life lessons that, again, most people would not experience. So I think it's caregiving is one of the most beautiful, hardest things that everybody in this world will experience and go through. So if we can maybe give people some tools and how to deal with it when they're going through it, maybe that's something we can get to. But it is,
Yes.
yeah, it's a profound journey.
I want to step back into um, what you said about the profession, the medical professionals. They're looking at the physical body, the comfort, in the body, but the emotion, the mindset that's going on, because that's still an individual, right? And I remember with Dad in the last 6 months, it was crazy. He had gone into the hospital, what was a bladder infection, And then 2 weeks later, he's still in the hospital. And they said, well, he has 3 days left to live. I'm like, huh? Uh, and I remember getting so angry because they said this in front of him.
Yeah.
And I said, well, guess what? I said, if he has 3 days, he's not going to die in this hospital. I was so angry. I thought, no, I need him to be in an environment where he can feel love, where he can feel peace, and was able to bring him home.
Yeah.
And Dad lived another 6 months. I mean, he was like and you've seen him, me and him, he was like the Energizer Bunny, just kept bouncing back. But you mentioned about your friend and what she said to you about the clarity and awareness. I remember always asking Dad, how are you feeling? Do you trust me? And he would always say the same thing, with my life. And
Yeah.
I had to sit in that, like, wow, I am that mediator for him. And then I also would ask him, Dad, what do you want to do? Because I didn't want to be selfish and hold on to him, even
Yeah.
though I didn't want him to go.
Yes.
And he would always say, I want to fight. And I'm like, okay, well, I fight for you. I fight with you. We're going to do this. But then I remember one day asking him, he was outside, just enjoying the sun. And he just seemed a little more fatigued than usual. And I said, Dad, what do you want to do? And he didn't respond. And I said, are you tired? And he said, yes. And when he said that, I was like, I just felt like life,
Yeah.
leaving me. And I realized, okay, LaWanna, it's it's time.
Time. It's
It's
time.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They know when it's time, and yeah, and you as their caregiver, because you're there for them, and like you said, like, how are you feeling? What can I do for you? I remember saying my mom and dad, they both wanted to pass at home. Um, and I remember having them both at home, and I was just like, at one point I looked at my mom and dad and I said, can we get a nurse just for a little bit? And my mom's like, no, you're doing a great job. I'm like, but mom, I just want to be your daughter for 1 minute. I don't want to be like, give you a needle here, fix you here, do this, tap in here. We had to drain some of her, uh,
Okay.
her taps and stuff. But it was just like, sometimes I just wanted to be their daughter. I just want to be your daughter. I don't want to be like the person that is trying to figure out every little thing that is going on. But you know what? That's what she wanted. She was like, nope, you're doing a great job. And this is what I want. So I was like, again, just surrender and be there and love them. But my mom knew when it was time. So did my dad. And and you said it's funny because I feel like I've had all of these experiences. With my mom, we knew it was time for her to go, and she went out in the most beautiful way. And with my dad, he was my oldest sister. She, poor girl, she never goes away, she never leaves. And it was like the weekend that she left, dad took a turn for the worse. And so of course we kept him on life machines until my sister came back. And again, as you said, my dad knew it was his time to go. And to be totally frank and blunt, after my mom died, my dad didn't want to live. He didn't have a will to live anymore. And like, he said it, and I used to say, like, Dad, what about me? What about Rosa, Carmela, my niece? Like, you have like four of us who love and adore you, and we need you. And he looked, and he'd be like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
He could not live without her. And so after mom passed, it took a while, not much longer, but dad passed. And while my dad was on life support waiting for my oldest sister to come back, my sister didn't want to pull the plug either, right? Like, she's like, no, no. And I had to sit with Rosa, and I said, Rosa, for as long as you want to keep dad like this, I will be here for you and I will support it. I said, but again, Rose, if dad knew that he was going to die right now and you were keeping him alive, I'm like, he would be so mad at you. And I know it's not funny, but again,
Right.
it was real and it was true. Because after mom passed, dad just stopped eating. He refused to eat. He was said, I don't want to eat, I don't want to live. Like I don't care what anybody says to me. I want to go be with your mom. So then when he was finally on his way out, and then we, stopped that for a little bit, I said, Rosa, I know you love dad and I love dad. I said, but dad, this is not what dad wants. It's not about what we want. It's about what he wants. And he wants to be with mom. So you take the time you need, but this isn't what he wants, right? So again, the role of a caregiver is to do what the best we can for them and what they want, not what we think they want, not what we want them to want, because then that would be completely different. It's really stepping outside yourself and giving your love, to this person. And in doing so, you learn about yourself, you learn resiliency, you learn humility, you learn patience, you learn all these skill sets about yourself in caring for others that, of course, is not who's helping who. Of course, we are helping them, but we are learning and getting a lot out of it. Yes, there is the tired, the fatigue, the anger, the sadness, but there's also this beautiful part about being able to be that for somebody. And so, I woke up, I had 3, mom, dad, and sister. And when I woke up in the morning, the first thing I said was, thank you. Like, thank you for allowing me to be able to be there for them. And that was the greatest gift I could ever had, was the fact that I could be there for them. So your turn.
That's beautiful. When you were talking, I was thinking about, you said it's about them, and there's times, even when we know it's about them, that those selfish moments creep in.
Yes.
And when dad was in the hospital the last time, he had never been on oxygen or anything like that, and he was having some difficulty swallowing. And so they said, well, we recommend a peg tube. And I'm like, what is that? They explained it. And I turned to dad. He said, no, you're not cutting on me. I'm not having surgery. I'm 94 years old, almost 94. And so I'm like, okay, well, what do we do? I'm like, Dad, what happens to the body if it doesn't eat? And he just looked at me. He said, it dies. Like, hello? I'm very aware.
Yeah.
I'm very aware of what I don't want. And so they told me that he could have the NG tube to feed, nasally through the nasal passage. And that's where LaWanna was selfish for the first and last time, because I knew my dad did not want that. He said, no life sustaining anything. If it was his time, let him go. And I told him to give it to him. And I don't regret it, because I had my dad at home for 6 more months and out of that hospital. And he was able to, again, begin to eat on his own again. But I had to, for myself, ask forgiveness. I'm like, I was this little girl that was going to do everything to hold on to dad, even though I knew that was going totally against his advance directive.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what it is. I mean, again, my mom is like the love of my life. And there was, she was, and it was Mother's Day. I'll never forget it. And we were at the cancer clinic. And my mom had never been sick a day in her life. It was pneumonia that eventually the pneumonia didn't go away. And then it was a stage 4 incurable lung cancer, traveling in her blood up her spine to her brain. And they gave her, they basically came in stage 4 inoperable, no, and there's nothing really we can do for you except for, try to numb your pain. And you have a few, maybe 3 to 6 months to live. And they walked out of the room, and it was me and my mom. And I was like, is that what they just said? Like, it was Mother's Day. I called both my sisters. I was like crying. I was like, Rosa, Carmela, I was like, I can't believe what they just said to mom. And then they just walked out of the room. And then nobody came back, because it was on a weekend. Nobody came back till Monday. And I was like, can you imagine if I wasn't there with my mom? Or just to get that kind of news and then be left alone all by yourself.
And she
Well,
was there for pneumonia, and then
yeah,
they found the other.
yes,
Wow.
yes. And again, there was a lot of things that happened at the hospitals, um, and in the caregiving journey that I didn't agree with, that I don't like, that I might still be angry or upset about. But that is all part of the process. Is like you have to just surrender. You have to surrender and you have to let go and you have to trust, even though it's not the way you want it to be or the way you hoped it to be, that it's happening in the way it is meant to be. We cannot control the fate of death. We cannot control that. When it is your time to go, it is your time to go. And again, I didn't want to be. I don't want to be as strong as I am. I don't want to be as resilient as I am. But I had no choice. I had no choice, and so I stepped into it, and I continue on a day-to-day basis to step into how can I help you? How can I be of service to you? And in a way, as much as I never wanted to do it, I had no choice but to do it. But like you said, after loss, in the caregiving role, I did learn so much about my family, about traditions, about myself. And then when everybody was gone, it's like, what's now? What now? And I realized life is so short. Life is short. We have limited time here on this planet. And I was like, you know what? I am going to live my life to the fullest. I'm like, I am going to, because I was doing Help Heal Humanity, but I was only doing Help Heal Humanity. I would like Christmas break, March break, summer break, because I was still a teacher and I could not, I couldn't do both at the same
Right.
time. Um, but after my parents passed, I was like, you know what? I quit all my paying jobs, like, and I said, no, life is short, and I want to try to see if I can do Help Heal Humanity full time, if I can try to do these things that I've kind of put on the side that I was like, maybe one day, maybe one day. I said, no, now is the time. I'm like, Serena, go and I'm like, if you try and fail, at least you tried. Because when you are that close to death and you see that many people around you die, it's like, you know what? I don't want to die with regrets. I do not want to.
It changes you.
It
And
does.
we're gonna take a commercial break and we'll be right back. I want to talk about not the three things: not dying with regret. We're going to come and give some tips and tools for caregivers, but we're going to end on a very positive note about walking in your purpose. We'll be right back. That commercial is with Mary Ellen Saganovich, and we actually lost Mary Ellen last November. And in her journey, and she went through a lot of health challenges. She was always, well, first of all, she was living in her purpose, and it was about inspiring and helping people to identify the truth in which they wanted to live in and live intentionally, authentically, and unapologetically. And it was interesting that week after dad died, I received a card from her, and I have like dad's things on my mantle, and I have a card from her, and she's like, "I'm praying for you, praying for your dad, and just know whenever you look up in the moon, your dad is smiling on you." And 2 weeks later, she was gone.
Yeah.
So life is very fleeting, and what you said was life is short. and a person by the name of Shay Brown. He's a coach extraordinaire. He always reminds us that time is long. Time it's infinite.
Yes.
But you're right, life is short. So what are we going to do in this time? Tomorrow isn't promised to any of us.
Yeah.
What we have is the now. And
Yes.
I want to pass this over to you all where we can give some caregiving tips, because I have people ask me, even in caring for dad, "LaWanna, you're always bouncing around, you're doing your lunch, you're doing your walks, you're always so happy." And I
Yes.
thought, well, what do you want me to be?
Yes.
Right now, dad, I still have my dad,
Yeah.
right? There are struggles, but I still have my dad.
Yeah.
He knows I'm here. We can talk, we can communicate. And people started to tell me how I should be. And I'm like, no, that if that's how you choose to go through this loss journey, that's fine. And I respect that and honor it. But I wanted to, for me and my family, amplify the love,
Yes.
amplify the positive energy. I mean, it was any way to keep joy in and around that house. We
Yeah.
found possible, we did it. So I want to turn it over to you, and we could talk about some tips that the audience might think about when you're dealing with caregiving.
Well, I definitely caregiving is a really tough job. Like I said, I feel like I've played many roles in my life. I'm a teacher, an educator, a humanitarian. I've done a lot of things in the world, but caregiving was one of the hardest things because I was caregiving for the people that I love. And when you're caregiving for an individual or for strangers, friends, it's one thing. But when it's the people that you love the most and all those feelings and emotions are there and charged, it's a different situation. But no matter who you are caregiving for, um, I always say, like, the things that are most important are for you to take care of yourself while you're taking care of them, because it's a tough job. So I tried my best to ensure that I would get some good quality sleep, even if it meant sleeping in the hospital. Sometimes I'd go to the spirit rooms, that's what I would call them, the prayer rooms, and I would just sleep for a couple hours in there, but I would try to get good sleep. I for sure made sure, because I know the direct relationship between nutrition and energy. And so I made sure that I was eating good and I was eating proper and I was eating healthy because I needed my mind, body, and spirit to be there for somebody else. It almost forced me to take better care of myself so I could take care of them. You get burnt out when you are caregiving. Burnout is very real. And oftentimes the caregiver goes before the person that they are caring for. So to avoid burnout, don't be afraid to ask for help. It's good to have other people come in and support you. Um, for me, in my circumstances, I was pretty much caregiving all the time. But I will say, whether it was my oldest sister or one of my aunts, they would always come and relieve me so that I could have at least an hour. And for me, that was yoga, that was walking in nature, where I took that time for myself because I needed to be at peace with myself so I could be there for them. So make sure you get good sleep. Make sure you get good nutrition. Ask for support because you cannot do it alone. You cannot. Another thing is, it's a lot of information that you're receiving from doctors, from medical professions, and it's scary because you don't know, what am I supposed to do with this information. So I would say record as much as you can the information that is being given to you, so then you're not missing anything, and you can play it back. Definitely keep a book. I had a pad for each one of my families to on a daily so I could record what was going on, their medications. So these are some things. Always have your book. Record as much as you can so you can go back, because it's such an emotional process that you'll forget. So, record, write down, take care of yourself, get good sleep, ask for help. And remember to take care of yourself while you're taking care of others. So these are some tools that I think are really beneficial. and going back to the healthcare and asking them, and multiple opinions. I know the Western doctors do not like me very much because I like to seek information from a variety of sources. I'm not going to just trust one source and one opinion. So, it's a lot of work. And that's the other thing. Caregiving is a lot of work. I was blessed that I was able to be in a position to do it. Other people are not in a position to do it, financial strains, having to go to work. So I think if you are not able to do it yourself, then just make sure you put systems in place so that you are communicating with people and you have maybe a schedule so that everybody knows what they're doing when, and nothing goes, missed or unnoticed. But you're doing the best. Give yourself grace, because if you don't give yourself grace, it's an overwhelming job, and you can get very fatigued, and it's very emotional. So my number one thing is make sure you take care of yourself so that you can properly take care of others.
I like that, and I want to just kind of go back to the five things that you said. So, I'm canopying this under giving yourself grace, where we're not perfect, right? And for many of us, it's you can't rehearse it, right? Each person is individual. It doesn't matter how many times you go through it. It's
Yep.
an individualized experience, and how you show up for that person and their needs is something you can't rehearse. You
No.
can know intuitively, intellectually, what things need to be done, but once you apply them, it can be very different. Like you said, you look at all sources, all modalities that are out there, and Western medicine is like, what's wrong with Serena? What is she talking about? But it's whatever we can do at the time. I think we first look at life saving, right? We don't want to say goodbye, so it's like, what can I do? How can I show up? And then it's giving permission, and I think the environment to allow someone to release with dignity, and not feel as though not leave stress and worry,
Yeah.
right? And I remember my mom. This was literally a few hours before Dad passed. She was leaning over him, telling him, don't go, you can't leave me. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I remember feeling angry. And I
Yes.
said, Mom. And she looked up. I said, do you know what you're going to do? And I knew my dad could hear me. And she
Yeah.
goes, what? I said, you're going to live
Yeah.
just like he did. And it caused her to just suddenly, it was like that virtual slap to say, Mom,
Yeah.
this isn't, I get it. We're grieving. We're
Yes.
holding on, but we
Yeah.
need to let go so he can go in peace. And like you said, with your parents, it was a beautiful release. The same thing with my dad. It
Yeah.
it was like I was teasing them, and we laugh about it now, but I said it was like Dad had just tiptoed out because my mom, everything was quiet, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Dad is gone," and the hospice nurse was like, "Oh no, he's still here. The breathing just gets shallow." And I looked at her and I said, "No, Dad's just left the building.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's gone." And so I think in that is, again, grace for yourself to say it's okay that I want to be selfish,
Yes.
but I have to also ask. Sometimes you have to ask, whatever your faith belief is, ask for the strength to
Yes.
be able to let someone go. And that's hard
And
because
the other thing,
I know I didn't want to.
I mean, LaWanna, if you think about it for a minute, if you put yourself in their shoes, do you know how vulnerable it is for them? Your parents, like I remember very clearly, I was 30. I was 30 years old when this was happening. And I remember going up the staircase at my family home. And it hit me as I was going up the stairs, because usually mom and dad take care of me. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, wow. I was like, mom and dad can't take care of you anymore. You have to take care of them. And instantly I shifted. It was almost like I became the parent now, right? And I had to be there for them. But you know how hard it was for my dad, who was like a very
Oh,
strong-willed,
yeah.
European man, to, for me to have to pick him up and bring him to the toilet. Like,
Oh, yeah. It's all about keeping their dignity.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. It's like you have to show up, and you have to show up with, you can't cry, you can't be depressed, you can't like beg them. They're going through the most traumatic experience of their life. And you got to be the best cheerleader you can for them. And all that sadness and all that hurt and anger. I mean, I felt anger, and I'm not an angry person. Feelings of anger came up, feelings of resentment came up, but I couldn't show them that. These are their
Right.
dying days. These are their dying days. Okay. I want them to feel the love. I want them to feel the positivity. I want them to know that even though I don't want you to go, we're still gonna be okay, because they need to, like, it's exactly like you said, LaWanna, they need to release, they need to transition, and they are going through such a hard experience that they don't
Yes.
need to bring them down. We gotta lift them up and send them off in the most beautiful ways. Yeah.
You know, this was literally moments before Dad passed, and my dad, he loved to play the harmonica, and one of his favorite little serenades to Mom was "You Are My Sunshine, My Only Sunshine." And he had that was like the last, like, what's, if you could remember, what's the last thing my parents ever taught me? And it's like all these years I had never thought about picking up the harmonica. But that's what we did the last year of his life. He taught me how to play. And I ran and I grabbed the harmonica.
Yeah.
And there was a friend that was there, and she grabbed my hand. She goes, "What are you doing? This is a sacred, holy moment. How dare you play the harmonica?" And I looked at her. I said, "This is my father. You need to step aside or go in the
Yes.
other room." And
Yes.
so I whispered in his ear, I said, "Dad, one more time, from you to Mom." And I played that. And I just saw this little tiny tear, and I
Yeah.
knew he heard it, and I knew it was right. Right. So sometimes, however, whatever your traditions or things are that you need to help usher a person from this life into the next, um,
Yes.
because I believe life is eternal. So into that next journey, then it is. And you don't
It
owe anyone excuses or explanations of why you're doing what you're doing, right?
and that's the other thing, is like a lot of people, it is depressing. Nobody's saying that it's not depressing. You're losing the people that you love. But you have to also make it like a celebration, as you said, with music, or like whatever. My mom loved the baking, or the special blanket, or the candles. I snuck my girlfriend Rowena. She hadn't been outside for months, and she's like, I wish I could just feel the sun on my face and the breeze. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, girl. She goes, what do you mean, let's go? I'm not allowed to. I was like, oh yeah. I was like, tonight we breaking out of the hospital. And what, we didn't break out of the hospital, but I brought her outside, and you know what? I guess because the healthcare professions didn't want her to go outside, she never got that experience. And I looked at her, I'm like, we are going, because you know
Yeah.
what? Why? You're going to die anyway, so you might as well get as much pleasure as you can in the process. And even though it's not a joyful process, you can find joy. You can find moments of happiness in the sadness. And those
Yeah.
are the memories. Those are the things that you remember. Those are the things that you remember, is, those things, that the silliness, the playfulness. That's, LaWanna, at the top, when we were talking last week, you said, Serena, I was gonna talk to you about help heal humanity, but I think maybe we should talk about caregiving. And I said, but help heal humanity, that's what it is. It's caregiving. It is that's exactly what it is. It's giving people the skills, the tools, and the resources to, one, be okay when you're not okay, and to just to be kind, to give back to people, to help them in their journey wherever they're at. That's being of service. That's what it is being there for somebody in their darkest moments and showing up even when it's hard. And when you show up even when it's hard, and when you do the things you don't think you're capable of, you know this now, and I know this now through experience, it breaks you open in a different way. And now you have all this new information, and hopefully you take that new information, that new insight, you look at your life differently, and then you start to live differently because you got some insight in that moment of loss.
Exactly. We're going to take another break, and then we're going to come back and talk about how you have reframed your purpose.
Yes.
A moment.
For the past 5 years, Help Heal Humanity has successfully run an elementary school in Canaan, Haiti. Due to COVID-19, the political unrest, and the recent earthquakes, food is scarce. The students attending our program are coming to school starving, and therefore causing a disruption in their academic goals. We need your help, now more than ever, to provide these students with the nourishment they need to continue their education. Our goal is to raise $100,000 so we can feed 100 kids lunch daily and send them to school in the upcoming year. Thank you for your support.
Okay, Serena. So we're almost out of time. So I want us to kind of unpackage, like you said, these years of caregiving, your mother, your father, your sister, and then recently your dear friend. What has shifted in you, because you are forever changed?
Yeah.
But you're on a new, and I think I'm wording this correctly, more empowered and more aware journey than ever before. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes complete sense. I mean, in my caregiving journey, I did realize that the majority of the life that I lived was to please my parents or to please society. I think I was programmed to, go to school, get an education, get a good job, work for the government, get your pension. And I think yes, that is a beautiful thing. But I also feel like caregiving and, watching my parents pass away, watching my friends, nearly my sister, it taught me that life is very precious. It's very short. And you only have one chance to live it in the physical form. So live your life for yourself on your terms, meaning don't do your life because that's what other people want from you. Live your life for your purpose, for your cause, for whatever it is that lights you up inside. Because if you are not living your life to your purpose, to your full potential, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to live your best life. And so if you know what your life's purpose is and you've kind of put that aside because you are afraid to take the leap of faith, I'm saying to you, the more you step into the things that scare you, the more you step into your true essence, your true being, the more you spend quality time with yourself or accepting your life and your situation for what it is, and then taking steps every day to change it and make it what you want. I am saying that in my caregiving, in caregiving for humanity, in seeing what I see around the world, there's war, there's millions of children dying of starvation right now. And that breaks my heart. So I am a caregiver to humanity. And my life's purpose, I know now, is for every person that I come in contact with to be of service, to give them what they need, what they want, and to try to just spread more love, spread more positivity, do more of what your heart desires. Because when you start to step into your true potential self, all these wonderful, beautiful doors are going to open up. So trust your heart, trust your spirit, trust in the process of your life, and that you are made to do good things in this world. You are capable of love, and whatever you set your mind to, you can do. So if you're stuck, if whether it's caregiving, your profession, your family, your friends, yourself, if you are stuck, I don't know, you can contact me, Serena Bufalino at heartfelthumanity.org, or just start to, you know, seek help into figuring out how you can live your best life, because that's what this is about, living your best life and using yourself to give back and help people live their best life. So I think I think I think that's what the purpose of life is. And and losing my family, I realized that my life is greater than I probably even realized, and my potential is greater. And every day I want to do the best that I can to make a difference. And I'm just gonna add the one thing is failing is a part of the process. Failing, screwing up, falling down, this is a part of life. So when that happens, and it's going to happen, whether it's disease, whether it's relationships, you're going to fall, you're going to break, you're going to make mistakes. But that's part of life, and getting yourself back up. Getting yourself back up.
Yes.
Choose to get back up. Choose to love yourself, to be positive. And when you step up for yourself, amazing things can happen.
Yeah, I love that. It's falling forward, right?
Yes.
And I see you only fail when you choose not to get up,
Yep, you do.
right? So it's don't sideline yourself. Life is, as you said, it's full of shifts and turns, sometimes waves, tsunamis.
It is,
I choose to learn how to ride the wave. I may not do it too well, but I'm riding it.
well, that's it. That's it, And then, like you said, I work with the most vulnerable youth, right? So I have students come into my classroom and they look at me like, how am I supposed to be happy? When they are some of the most marginalized, disadvantaged youth in the city of Toronto or in Canada, in Haiti, or whatever. And it's like, even though your circumstances might not be amazing, my job is to teach you how to be amazing in that process, right? And so that's why I always say, like, don't compare yourself to others. Step outside yourself and just and love yourself. And if you don't know how to love yourself, like the first three things that I teach in my classroom is one, how to love yourself, because most of them don't know how to do that. And then two, how to love your friends and family. And then three is your community. So these are like the first month, that's all we're talking about. And a lot of people think it's airy fairy love, gaga goo goo. But I mean, respect, whatever you may call it. But I truly do believe that just love, kindness, and acts of just gratitude can simply change the world. So that's hopefully what we do. And caregiving, that's what we do every day. And every time you come in contact with somebody, it's like a caregiving experience. How do you want that person to walk away? What do you want to be remembered by? What did you give them? Because when we all die, the one thing we are going to remember is who loved us. How did we love, and who loved us the most? So let's spread.
I want to say something is when you just said that last piece. I was talking to our dear friend Barbara, and we were just talking about life. And I said, Barbara, at the end of the day, whenever it's your time, my time, whoever's time, we're not going to say, oh, if I could just work a little bit longer, if I could just write one more contract, get one more client. No, you're going to be reflecting, like you said, on the love.
Yeah.
Who's around me? What legacy did I leave? I mean, I think sometimes we get so caught up, especially in Western society, in the checks, right? I've got to do this. I've got to achieve this. I've got to live in this neighborhood, drive this car. It's like go, 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 go. And where is, like you said, the basics? Where is love? Where is community? Where is family?
Yep.
We've somehow lost our priorities.
Yes, we did. And then like you said, and Not that I wanted to have some of the wisdom that I have. By the time I was 30, I lost both my parents, nearly my sisters, two of my best friends. And then I work in some of the scariest places in the world, and I've seen multiple people, um, die. And part of what we do in Haiti when we bring groups there is we go to the hospice center and we help people who are 100% alone die in dignity. And
Mhm.
it's funny because usually when I do Haiti, it's about 10, maximum 15 people, and one of the stops is the hospice center. So they have to spend 1 or 2 days helping. And some people love it. Other people are like, I just want to wait outside. And, you know, and it's nonverbal. That's what I say. You don't need an education. You don't need to be a rocket scientist. You don't need to have $1 million to sit, to sit. All you have to do is sit and maybe hold a hand. And just in that, you are giving somebody the luxury of not being alone in their dying days and letting them know somebody in the world loves you and cares for you. And that's what those are the simple things in life. So I think if we can all just return back to the simplicity of love and life, maybe we can get rid of all the stuff that's happening around us.
Yes. Well, Serena, we're out of time. I hope our listening audience enjoyed this. If you're on the caregiving journey, have been a caregiver, and would like to reach out to Serena, her contact information is below, serena.bufalino@helphealhumanity.org. Also, if you'd like to know more about Help Heal Humanity, you can go to helphealhumanity.org. Donate time, money, any other resources. See how you can be a part of this global movement that is creating change and is improving lives. So, Serena, thank you so very much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, LaWanna. And again, I just want to end with I absolutely loved watching your caregiving journey with your father because the love, the love that you two had, it radiates like in every post, in the way that you guys interacted with each other. And I'm sure everybody who knows you, they felt it. They felt it. And so I just want to say you did a phenomenal job of caregiving for your dad. I know it's hard and I know the transition is tough, but we have angels who are guiding us, and just thank you for sharing your story and letting me share mine.
Thank you so much. And to our
Yes.
listening audience, thank you for joining us for another edition of Choose to Challenge. We look forward to seeing you next week. Be safe, be well, and remember that in life and in business, when your vision intersects with opportunity, success is inevitable. Bye, everyone.